It's a faceless video day today because I've had a massive surgery and finally I've become trans, a hair transplant. But today is not the day to reveal it because I don't think it's actually safe for YouTube. Anyways, let's get into some actual price action analysis here because we left off a few days ago. I believe it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were looking at this daily time frame using the price action pivots as creating a pattern. A pattern, bro. He's become? No. Well, maybe. As typically, falling channels like this are more likely to break out to the upside, and most importantly, they do have an intended target. So if you recall from, I believe it was Friday's video, we did have an intended target upon resolution of this, which was either a closure above the top side of this upper boundary here at about 104.5, or just a higher high than what we saw on Thursday, and that was pointed almost exactly where we're at right now. So you can imagine my surprise when I wake up after being hopped up on all sorts of pain pills, which, by the way, I'm on right now as well. So we'll see if this even makes sense. But I like the challenge. I really like the challenge here. And since that target has been hit, it's time to talk about what comes next. So the next biggest thing that I think most people are probably looking forward to is everyone's favorite chart, everyone's favorite setup, the most controversial one of all time, and it is, of course, the moon setup right here. As of, I believe tonight, we will fire off, or not we will, but the moon will fire off the bull signal after having, a bear signal over here, which actually did play out rather well, nearly a 10% move to the downside. And if we look at the statistics pertaining to the upside, or the bull moons, if you want to call it that. I really don't have like a better word to use there, and I wish my strategy tester would load a little bit faster. There we go. We'll use this one. We can see that just blindly playing these moons, no matter how crazy it sounds, no matter how ridiculous it is in theory, does have a positive edge. You can see the equity curve going up into the right here over the full history of Bitcoin. Again, I wouldn't say that this is like the best strategy. In fact, last night I went over an optimized moon strategy in the test my strategy and the pimp my strategy playlist, which you can check out if you're so interested. But I want to acknowledge that the profitable trade rate, essentially the hit rate, is, it's close to a coin flip, a little bit in favor of course, positive closures or positive trades. But because the profit factor is rather high, that does make things, rather nice. So let's go to the actual trade analysis right here because it is going to fire off on tonight's daily closure, and we can see the average winning trade has returned about 13.5%. The average losing trade losing about 8.25%. So regardless of whether it wins or loses, we now have an area of interest, both the upside and the downside, of what to expect over the next 14 to 15 days, as that's how long these last. So assuming Bitcoin closes somewhere around here, let's say 109.5, nearly 13.5% to the upside. I can't remember now because too many fucking painkills, but yeah, that put Bitcoin at the highly esteemed 124,000 US dollar territory, which is I ain't complaining. And to the downside, 8% is a very interesting target as well because it's going to come up later in our analysis, but that brings us back down to last Thursday's low, just around about $100,500. $100,500 US dollars is what I'm trying to say. And again, the date range for that is, between the next week or two, up to 14 days. Now, I want to combine that with the new meta signal setup that just fired off. I believe this was this morning. I believe it was also given out for free in their Discord as well as on Twitter. So if you're not following them, you can find their link in the description below. And you can actually even get a lot of these signals for free. Just test them out. And this is very specifically a trending strategy right here with the 4.01. That's what that means. And this is for the 3-hour time frame. So not a super high term time frame, but statistics are statistics at the end of the day. That's what we focus on a channel like this, despite some people absolutely fucking hating that for whatever reason. But hey, this one did fire off at what? At 107.550. So this one obviously fired off yesterday. I wasn't around to actually talk about it, but yeah, if you were following their Twitter, you got that. And we can see that target number one is already pretty fucking close, man. It's all the way at $111,170. That does have a rather high win rate. In fact, just here at about over 70.5%, which I mean, in my opinion, not bad. Target number 2, which is a just under 46% strike rate, is new all-time highs. That's 117. And target number 3, which is just under 37.5% strike rate, is all the way just under $121,000, which, you know, kind of makes sense given the old moons right there. On top of that, if we were to see that target number 3, I do want to interpret this in terms of the average amount of bars it takes to get there. So if we, oh shit, where did this one start again? Yeah, this one started at 107.5. Okay, 107.5. We're going to go to 107.5, and I think it was 46 bars. Was it 46 bars? No, wrong way. It was 42 bars. Okay. 42 bars at 107.5. All right. Let's see where it is. About right here. 42 bars from there would put us where? That would put us on Saturday the 14th. So actually that would be a little bit sooner than what you would be expecting from the moon signal. But hey, it is in there, I guess. So, you know, if you are bullish, there are setups still pointed north. There is even a pretty high probability of even target number 1 being hit. So I do think that deserves some recognition over here at least. And of course, on the other side there, they always do give out stop losses, and that one is at 104.350. So we shall see which one happens first. At the end of the day, it's all just a data point. But speaking of data points, I want to go back to the June data that we were looking at coming into this month as to when to expect the low of this month, especially if it's going to be a bullish month, like a green closing June. And for green closing Junes, we typically see the low on average on day number 7 of the month. But I really want to acknowledge here that when you go into this data, it is by and far away the most likely month that if it closed positively, it actually, the day that you see the low of the month is like rather late in the month. You know, this one, in many cases, we see it coming in at the end of week number 2, which just, you know, we haven't really seen that on any other month. So to be fair, obviously we're already past day number 7, and day number 7 effectively, I mean, that was pretty damn close to the low, right? I mean, the low was on the 5th, and the 7th, I mean, it's just 2 days later. So that is pretty fucking close there. And with Bitcoin, you know, putting in a move like this, $10,000 coast to coast, well, I mean, you know, it's a little bit more difficult to imagine Bitcoin coming back down to that low, but there are other things that do suggest it's still potential here. We'll come up with where that essentially gets, you know, activated, if you will, or becomes relevant, I suppose, effectively back down below the breakout of this falling channel. But hey, you know, for right now, it does look a lot more like the low is in and Bitcoin is sideways and up. But as Bitcoin does grind up against this region, you know, this is a region that you really would be expecting at least a short-term pullback from. I'm not saying it's going to collapse back down to $100,000. I mean, that sentence sounds so fucking crazy. Oh my God, collapse down to $100,000. Like, for fuck's sake, I assume most people at this point watching this channel have been around here for many years. That is just a statement that is, sounds so fucking crazy, man. Anyways, but there is a setup on the other side that does suggest that, hey, we should still be a little bit guarded towards a potential downside move. And that is coming off the back of the HPDR versus BBWP setup right here. And this is something that I haven't gone ahead and tested with the skeleton key just yet, but we will on this video. And you can see that, the setup essentially is whenever we see price is trending or trading well above that 38.2 level, or especially above the 50% level, while BBWP is going into a contraction phase, evidenced by the negative curvature here from close over close. If we were to test the probability of price to then, at minimum, test the median, which is currently 98,350, but that obviously will update and change, then, well, hey, show me the damn results. How about that? Yeah, then we could see for CME's full history, there's been 20 particular occurrences of this, and 70% of the time, so 16, I think, no, that's 14 out of 20. Again, I don't know if my math is correct here because I am like literally really fucking hot right now. But I think about 14 out of 20 would be 70%. And that, you know, that has happened. So, you know, as long as Bitcoin has not come back down and tested that region, well, it does make me a little bit guarded towards, this area right here, rejecting, playing out maybe one more downside move. But that really should be the major opportunity, if you do want to be bullish. On top of that, we had this setup over here. This was a very simple setup as well. And by the way, I'm not saying that this setup or this setup are like playable. As you can see from the statistics, like these would be losing setups. These are just purely for YouTube directional analysis. I would not trade these, but this setup right here is super, super simple. We're just looking at the red moving average and the yellow one. When they cross the downside, then we are looking for a move to the green moving average. That's basically it. So this is a pretty damn good example over here. Happened on Friday, the 20th of December. And you can see much later, but yes, indeed, it did happen. Bitcoin did come down to that green moving average. Anyways, we saw one of these setups fire off over here, and Bitcoin did get pretty damn close to it. That was one of the reasons why we were looking at a likely price somewhere around $100,000 at the end of last week, which did get hit. Now, Bitcoin's had a pretty epic bounce from there, but now you have to be asking yourself the question, is it going to come back down and fulfill that test? Well, if we go into the strategy statistics here, again, almost 78% of the time, that has been the case. So that does make me consider that, as long as Bitcoin has not actually tested that 55, or sorry, not 55, it's actually a 70 EMA, should be a little bit more on guard here. Now, the timing of this between the signal firing off and testing that region, that is a lot more variable. If we can go to our strategy tester, we can see that, trade analysis. Yes, we can see that on average that takes about 10 bars if it's going to be a win. If it's going to be a loss, much longer. So we could draw a couple conclusions from this. One, if this is much further away from 10, this is probably going to be a loss and it's probably not going to come down there. And by the way, just so you know, today's day number 10. Crazy. Now, of course, there is variance in this. It's not just because it gets to 10, like it immediately goes down there. Fucking obviously, okay? Redacted commenters of the world, hold your fucking horses, okay? Obviously, I understand that most people in this channel completely understand this, but of course, speaking to a worldwide audience here. Anyways, my point is that now the longer that time goes on, so let's say there's another week or two that passes by and Bitcoin still hasn't come down to $100,000. I mean, that's just not happening at that point. And at that point, the moons take over and take us to hopefully the upside. But yeah, like I said, in the short term, I really would honestly be expecting a bit of a short-term pullback at minimum. I mean, Bitcoin's been literally vertical here since Thursday's low. Yes, this is a good move, absolutely. But at some point, a vertical move typically comes back down and tries to put in a higher low. And in this case, we can even see another formation forming here for CME, a rising channel, kind of the opposite of this falling channel over here that played out rather well. And these are more likely to actually break out to the downside, and they do have naturally an area of interest or an implied target as well. So let's go over what that implied target would be and then how to confirm that. My damn lines there. Okay, so how to confirm it first, we need to see Bitcoin close below, really open and close below the lower boundary of that, which is kind of where it's at right now, but it is crawling its way back in. So this one probably not going to break, or at least as of right now, it's not breaking. If Bitcoin basically closed below, let's call it $109,000 on a 4-hour time frame, then it will. And there is an implied target on that, which is actually directly lining up with the yellow moving average, the 21 EMA at 107 on CME. Now keep in mind, CME does have, about a $500 price premium over spot price action. So, that puts Bitcoin spot at around 106.5 or so. And maybe that even precedes the, this test over here that we were just looking at, back down around here. Definitely possible, but I'd really keep an open mind with this because in the short term, yeah, it does look to me like things probably want to try a little bit of a downside move, especially after retesting, a major high like this. So do understand, the short term, the medium term, and the higher term timeframes, they're always going to have different looks with each other. And I think that's where a lot of confusion typically happens, But yeah, looking at the 4-hour time frame right here, I mean, momentum's already turning down. It will confirm down for the first time since this ran began on Thursday. If Bitcoin closes next 4-hour below 110, if we go to the 12-hour time frame, it's probably up right now, but it is eating up a lot of this space without, not really getting to new all-time highs, which is uneventful. The daily timeframes also up here as well, above 105,400. But I do want to again acknowledge that there was this trendline regression here that was holding in the lows since late February, and that was actually broken on that move to the downside last week. So does it rally back up here and then reject below that? That again would be a pretty good and obvious signal that things will come back down to about $100,000, somewhere around there, give or take. The 2-day time frame is going to continue to the downside here. So the very, very high term timeframes are unchanged more or less. The 3-day time frame also continuing to the downside below 111,250. 5-day time frame is actually not turned down just yet. Spot price action has certainly, though. 110 or 111 is the number to beat. And I think, CME will actually close it tonight. So that one will open. I imagine it probably will turn down as well. But hey, we shall see. And then you got the weekly and so on and so forth. So all of these things are kind of positioned in the same region. But again, when you brush up against a region like this, a prior all-time high, a lot of the time you do see, prolonged consolidation there. But hey, what would effectively make me say this consolidation is fucking over, baby, and this thing is not breaking to the downside? This thing's breaking to the upside, and you're probably looking at $120. $120,000 for the redax out there, myself included. Well, that would be with a 5-day closure, basically above this high that we saw from January, the prior all-time high, which Bitcoin is still not closed above, despite brushing up against there several times. And that would officially be 110, 150 again on CME. So Bitcoin's about $100 below there right now. A lot of things can happen in 14 hours, 13 minutes, and 14 seconds and counting, but hey, that's a number to keep an eye on. And I think that's where I'll be leaving off on this video. I should probably remind you that we still got a little bit less than a week left on our summer sale going on, with 20% off of any one of the programs or services that you can find here in the Teachable link in the description below. It literally includes everything, actually, 20% off of literally anything. And you can even get 7 days free trial on most of our indicator offerings. So you can try it, and if you don't like it, then don't fucking pay a cent and all good, no problem. And if you do like it, then you get a discount. Okay, that's enough for me today. I need to go back to sleeping because Orc Crown is coming back very soon. I can assure you of that. But today he's a little bit too bloody, and therefore we shall see each other hopefully tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. And with that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.